In the latest, get your children the hell out of public schools. And really, even if you have them in private school, make sure you are paying attention to what it is that's going on. What I believe to be one of the most evil thing that has been adopted by academia, by professors in the higher education system, and of course in the public education system, from the administration on down to the public teachers, is things that are anti-work, anti-private property rights. That is such a dangerous thing that's been pumped into these young kids' brains, and we're getting to the point of like no return, especially in the West, where you have so many youth that are adopting socialism and socialistic ideals as their preferred economic model, which has historically been among the dangerous. I don't care that they always point to Scandinavia. When you talk about actual socialism, the pile and trail of dead bodies that has been left among it. And no, it's not different from communism. Actually, historically speaking, you should go watch my video, by the way, old video I did called Yes, the Nazis Were Socialists. And I go through the history of socialism. I don't know where they got this idea that somehow, well, that wasn't real socialism, or socialism is different and should be separated from communism, when historically they were actually used synonymously, even really up to relatively recent. Used synonymously when you look at the works of a lot of state socialists and non-state socialists, or people that call themselves like anarchists, right? It's been used historically synonymously. But right here, we have Colorado Teachers Union claims I don't know how this flew under the radar, but the reason why this story got covered, or why I'm covering the story now, is because it's being combated now. But the Colorado Teachers Union, and they claim this, it says here, and I'm covering this from Blaze, the Colorado Education Association, the largest union in the state representing more than 39,000 education professionals, recently passed a radical resolution that claimed capitalism inherently exploits children, public schools, land, labor, and resources. During a recent assembly meeting, a disgruntled CEA member walked out in disgust over this. And this is starting to be combated by people that even members of these unions. I see unions as quacks anyway, nonetheless. But the original version of the resolution read, the CEA believes that capitalism requires exploitation of children, public schools, land, labor, and or resources, and therefore the only way to fully address systemic racism, the school to prison pipeline, climate change, there's just so many buzz terms, patriarchy, gender and LGBTQ disparities, education inequality, and income inequality, is to dismantle capitalism. That's about as communistic as it gets. Dismantle capitalism and replace it with a new equitable economic system. I don't know what to tell you. That sounds basically something that I could imagine if Marx was still alive and he was living in the West. That seems to be something that he would publish. We are constantly using Band-Aids and minor reforms to make things better, which is good, but the system itself is the problem. I agree that the system itself is the problem, but not for a different reason. The system itself is a problem is because quacks and hacks like yourselves have had a lot of influence. So you've seen, certainly in America's economy, the socialistic things that are in there, the fact that there's idiots that actually think that we have some sort of full-blown capitalistic society, if you will. I don't know how you could say that with a straight face when you look at the mountains of just economic laws. And I'm not saying like actual economic law. I'm saying like actual legislation that interfere with the marketplace. You can't say that this is a social, like, you can't say that it's a capitalistic society. You can't possibly say this. Capitalism, and I define it as such. This is how basically all Austrian and the advocates, Austrians, Chicago economists have historically, I don't know whether you take it from Sowell to Rothbard. Capitalism is the private ownership of goods and services and the free and voluntary exchange of those private goods and services. It has been and always will be the most moral economic system. Anything else requires some sort of anti-private property, which is an act of aggression inherently. That's not to say that it's utopianism, because just in the fact that individuals are individuals, they have different work ethics, they have different things that they strive to be, because that's what makes humans humans. There are going to be people that are going to be worse off and better off. This idea that equality is inherently good, a lot of that actually stems from the civil rights era, because they were using equality as a term, as a lead term. When equality as an actual concept as it pertains to human action is a purely nonsensical term. I would also encourage you to read, there's a collective, a bunch of essays by the great Murray Rothbard, and it's called Egalitarianism, the Revolt Against Nature. When you look at equality, and even if you look at it, some people are like, it's not equality, it's about equality of law or equality of opportunity and stuff. All of that's nonsensical because equality doesn't exist. The great soul has said, a certain man isn't equal to himself, or any given man isn't equal to himself on different days. Right? So this idea that you can look at like disparities and all this, and that alone you can point to some sort of wrongdoing, is crazy, because we're not equal human beings. Not equal in our input, output, when it comes to the marketplace, none of that. We're not. So this idea that there's a problem inherently because there are some people that are better off than others is just crazy. There's nothing inherently wrong with that. It's a lot of times it's voluntarily arrived. And that's what matters. Not necessarily the result, but more of like how it got there. Was it by voluntary means? If it isn't, then there's an act of aggression. Okay? And I would say that that's bad. And every capitalist would say that it was bad. And this, how it's, the capitalism is the more moral. I say this many times. You've heard me say this on stream a lot. But it's the more moral economic situation, because in comparison to socialism or any sort of they say mixed economy, a little bit of both, which is just socialism with extra steps. But the capitalist will allow the socialist to be a socialist, but the socialist won't allow the capitalist to be the capitalist, because a capitalist, under no given circumstance, will a capitalist say that you don't have the right. If y'all want to pull y'all resources and be confined to the land that y'all actually own rightfully, and y'all want to live out whatever commune or socialistic nonsense, if y'all want to be able to do that, there is not a capitalist on earth, the actual one, not the champagne socialist, that would say there's something wrong with that, or say that you don't have the right to exercise that. You, of course, do. There's no reciprocity from the socialists. They won't let the capitalists live to be one, because it's an inherently immoral situation. But I think it's very, very important. The fact that this even got this far, going back to my original point, and why you should get your children the hell out of these schools, is because I don't know where these people get off thinking that a lot of these young people that advocate socialism don't come from like conservative or even maybe libertarian parents. Plenty of them do. Who do you think that they're picking this stuff up? You remember during the Summer of Love in 2020 and all those mug shots that would come out of cities, and you'd see like a lot of these people that were participating in like rioting and all that, getting arrested, were like, they worked in the education system. You wonder why these guys, they're all in it together. It's one of the most important things that go unaddressed, and why I think people are living this pipe dream. Like the old saying is this, you don't hand your kids off to Caesar and not expect them to become Romans. There's a variation of that saying. And it's true. It's like, you can think you're the greatest parent of all time, right? You care so much about your children. But the fact of the matter is this: if you're dropping them off every day in a public education system, they spend more time in that system than they do with you. And hell, when they go home anyway, you know, they got their face buried in a tablet or something. You know, y'all might spend 30 minutes at your little dinner or something talking. But other than that, they're going to spend most of their life being taught by people that simply aren't you. Get them out. If you enjoyed this video and want to support other content, please become a member at ericdjuly.com. This is my own unique platform that replaced my Patreon. Our Ultramax, which is our highest tier, gets free shipping domestically even with Rippaverse orders, and are able to redeem the Creators Edition copy of ISOM #1. You can move up and down tiers or cancel at any time. Also visit Rippaverse.com. This is my comic book company that launched a $3.7 million campaign. We appreciate your support.